Okay. Okay, so we're recording. So I was able to record the session last night, and it did come through. It took a while, but it came through. So you can see it right here if you click on that announcement. I tried to put it recording and give you the date so that if you miss or something like that, or like I think someone was out or was it couldn't get in or something like that, you can see what you missed in that time. So let's click on it, and you won't see the video there. Well, maybe you will, but I loaded it up to YouTube, so you can look on any device that you can access YouTube through. And it looks like it's ready to go too. It looks like it's processed. So feel free to um, view it. Hope you find it helpful. I'm going to start doing that. I've started recording these sessions just to kind of give you a heads up, just to kind of give you so you can have these if you need them. I think that was a pretty helpful thing. The other thing to take note of, let me go back to the front of the class. This is one of those nights where I'm going to have to jet out early. So I've created, uh, take a look at this, and I emailed it out to everyone too. It's a skill review on signed numbers. So let me show you that, and I want you to do it. It shouldn't take you more than the it. Well, let's look at it. So go ahead and just download it directly from it. I emailed it to everyone through. I emailed it to everyone through the Canvas inbox too, so it's there. It's either in your Canvas inbox or you can download it straight from the announcements, whichever way is easier for you. But download it, and here's what it looks like. Wow, did it open? Okay, there it is. So skill reviewed signed numbers, and it goes through some of the basics of signed numbers, if only to give you practice as we head into the first test next week. What I wanted to do is sort of a series of skill reviews. One here focusing on signed numbers, the next one focusing on which we'll do Monday, focusing on probably order of operations and maybe some combining like terms and working with expressions, and then the last one dealing with a few problems dealing with solving equations. That way, we're not doing a review, one big giant review. We break it up. My philosophy is break it up a little bit. So that's sort of the idea I had here was let's do some review tonight. I'm going to give you this, and you're going to do it on your own because I think you can do it on your own. I'll have one for Monday going over order of operations and some simplifying algebraic expressions, and then we'll have another one on Tuesday dealing with equations and some of that stuff. So with that in mind, I'm going to push the first test to Wednesday instead of Tuesday so that we kind of have this opportunity. We're going to still do new stuff, um, um, but this way you can kind of spread out your review. It also gives you an opportunity to finish the homework on Sunday or Monday if you need, and it doesn't bring it so close. I think it may help to ease some of the stress, if you will, that comes with doing schoolwork. But I think this is sort of a balance, a way to sort of balance the whole thing. So plan on your test for Wednesday, and the way it's going to work is it's going to be inside Hawks. You can do it whenever you want that day. It's not, you don't have to, and in fact, we probably won't meet here. You can do it during this time, but there's no point in logging in. You're just going to be tippity tapping, and if you do it early, there's no need for you to do it. No need for you to come that night because basically everyone's going to be working on the test. So uh, the Wednesday is what? I'm going to look at the date. October 9th. Uh, yeah, October 9th. So mark that on your calendar and then just be prepared. Carve out an hour and a half that day to do your test. It's doable within the time period. It will be doable within the time period. Um, Probably expect between 10 and 15 questions, and they'll range in complexity. Some will be on the challenging side, some will be pretty darn quick. So it's not like they're all going to be long problems. You'll be able to do it in that time period. If you want to do it during this time period, that's probably sort of the best because you've already had that time blocked off. But if you have free time other during the day, that's fine too. Just know that when you do get into that test, it's a one-shot deal. So, well, maybe I'll make it two opportunities. I don't know. I'll think about it. I think I'll look at it. So, anyways, so I have to create that in Hawk, so you won't see it yet until probably that day. It won't be revealed until like Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's just sort of give you a heads up. So this I do want you to do. This is something. It looks like there's 9 slides. It's a PowerPoint presentation, if you will, and it looks like it's a lot. There's like don't go by the numbering, by the way. I just kind of randomly threw some slides together, and I just didn't worry about the numbering. So there's 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 15, 19, 24. There's 27 separate problems, but it's not going to take you more than 30 minutes to do because they are quick. It's just working. So I'll tell you, like, let's take a look here. Which one's bigger? Less than, greater than, all that stuff. There's no work to do on that one. Determine the absolute value. You just type in what the answer is. Again, simplify this using positives and negatives. So the point is to give you some practice into doing all that. Um, and also the reason why I'm gonna give it to you, or I'm gonna break at 6, so it's 6 to 6:30. You do the skill review. Challenge yourself to do it in that 30-minute time frame. Not that you have to get it done in that 30 minutes, but if you can challenge yourself to get it done in the 30 minutes based upon what you know, that really shows I'm good with negatives. I'm good with positives. I can work through this stuff. If you don't get it done in 30 minutes, that's fine too. I'm just saying it's not a reflection. It's just one of those things of as we move forward in college algebra, you do want to have a good sense of working with positives and negatives. It's going to pop up, as you've probably seen already. It pops up everywhere. It's all over Hawks, and they test you on it left and right. So that's why I wanted to make a separate skill review just on this, so that you can really start practicing it and getting it quick in the different contexts. Most of the time, where you're going to see it is stuff like this: 15 minus 20, or stuff like this, multiplying a bunch of numbers, or stuff like this, using the exponents, things of that nature, or even dividing. You'll see we do that. We do that quite a bit too. So, um, and this is also a good opportunity to give yourself some practice on the calculator if you need. But I do want you to challenge yourself to see how far you can get within that 30 minutes. And I hope, but I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised that you'll get probably all the way, if not very close in that time. And it's just a bunch of, you're going to have to flip flop on a lot of rules. So, any questions on this um, skill review
Yes,
thing?
I have a question.
Hmm.
So I downloaded the PDF for the slideshow, but all the equations are not showing up on the slides. It just has A, B, and C.
You talk with this PowerPoint here.
Yes,
Yes,
the
I
PowerPoint.
show the same thing.
It's not showing up.
No,
No, it
not at
doesn't
all.
show A, B, and C.
Let me see. Let me do it another way. Do this. Oh,
I didn't download it. I just opened it from Canvas and it's showing. It's working.
I downloaded mine and it works fine.
okay, let me do this. Now this, I can save it as a PDF, but the drawback to a PDF is you can't type on it. The reason why I did this as a PowerPoint is you can just type on it. Yeah, -4. I'll give you that one. It's easy to type in. You don't have to worry about handwriting it and scanning it and all that stuff. So let me see if I can save it as a Word document. I don't know if I can.
Never mind. Mine's actually showed up. If I click it on the PowerPoint, it shows up now.
Wait. If you click it in the
If I go back to how you sent it the first time,
Mhm.
it shows. If I go in announcements, it shows an announcement and it lets me see everything.
Okay.
So
Can
mine's
you
working.
can you download it and type on it?
Hold on.
Mine's corrupted when I try to download it,
That's crazy. Let me see.
but I can see it otherwise without downloading it.
Yeah, the only way that I can access mine is through downloading it, and through downloading it, it won't show you the equations.
Funny. I mean, it opens perfectly on my end. Um, don't know why it would do that.
I mean,
Okay.
even if I can't write on it, I can always write it in my notebook. I mean, I have notebook and paper and pen. I could just write the problem down and do it like that.
Yeah, the thing is, I want you to return it to me. That's the thing, so
Oh,
that I have
okay,
a basis. See, the thing is, you're getting two grades, one for
okay.
1105 college algebra, but I need these. I'm going to assign these skill reviews um, for you to be able to return, so that I can have a basis for your other grade with the 088.
Well, are we able to like take a picture of it and just send it to you?
Because I can stream my screen if you want me to and show you probably what everybody else is seeing.
Sure. Oh yeah,
Okay.
and that'll give me an opportunity here to do this.
Close out on my other side. There we go.
Yeah.
Wait, is it showing?
Oh.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, so
images
that's how it's
themselves.
looking on my end, except there's just zero equations. It's just A, B, and C, and whatever else is on the slide.
Try clicking on the image. No, it won't do it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'll just upload the PDF then. I just saved it as a PDF, so let me edit this.
I don't know how to exit this. Oh wait, I see.
When I hit course and then I hit algebra, the thing, it just pops up recent announcement. And then I click directly on the skill review and it comes up, but it won't let me type on it.
Yeah.
But all the stuff comes up on it. Well, you got another thing you have to click on too.
Yeah,
It,
usually whenever it's like a thing that a teacher posted, usually you have to download it to edit it.
Yeah.
So,
We can always just open up a Word and send you and just type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then send you the answers.
Yes, that is true too. Let me see
You did it
this.
underneath. You did it underneath PowerPoint because mine opens up perfectly fine in Microsoft PowerPoint. So you might want to try opening up underneath a different program. Might help.
You should be
I have to download that.
PP.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
it's PowerPoint. That may be the other issue. If you're not opening it in PowerPoint, that could be the problem.
yeah, it opens up perfectly fine in PowerPoint. It lets you type into everything, and then you can save it and send it back.
Okay, so that's a me thing. I sort of assumed something here. Let me do this.
yeah, and I have Keynote on my Mac, which usually works with PowerPoint type things.
Yeah,
How
so
do
let me.
you get, is it in Canvas, the PowerPoint?
No, see, Canvas is the website, is an internet thing. So that's a
Okay.
little different. So PowerPoint's an actual program like Word,
It's Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Okay. So it's a
But
program that we have on our computer. It's not something that you,
if you have Office, do you have
I think
Word,
I do.
Excel?
Everybody has Office for free in PowerPoint, by the way. If you go into your email, it'll give you the list, well, the option to sign in. It's through your SLCC email, and it's all for free while you're in school.
Right. You go through your email account. That's Office 365. You can download everything you need through that for free. So when you see .pptx, that's a PowerPoint. That file extension is a PowerPoint extension. So that could
Okay.
be the reason why. Yeah, if you're opening in Keynote, I'm not a, I don't. Funny, I have a Mac, but I don't use Keynote, so I don't know much about that. Um, but let's say this: I uploaded it as a PDF too, and I'm fine with you just sort of putting it in a Word document, typing your answers, and submitting that too. Now, by the way, I don't want to make it hard. I want to make it easy. So do what's easy, and if that's typing out your answers on a Word document and submitting that, fine by me. So you're going to load it though in 88, and I'm going to have to create an assignment for that. Let me see. There it is. I'll create an assignment for that so that we can uh, skill review signed numbers. Okay. And I'll just put this up there as well. Submit. Okay. So I'll do that 2 points. I'll do 100. Assignments, display as points to everyone. What do I want to do? Due date. I'm just going to put it there the 6th. No significance to the due date, just to put something on a calendar. File upload. Okay, so it's file uploads, and so you just upload your document to it. Let's see if it does. Booyah! So let's see. There you go. So now it's there.
And that's in the 088.
That's in the 088, and that way, the goal is the 088 part of it is the skill review we're going to do. The expectation and the design is for you to get 100 on that. So they're not going to be challenging. They really are skill reviews, and the reviews are to prepare you for the stuff in 1105. So not to add pressure, but I do need to. You need to grade for that too. So that's what we're doing. Okay.
I opened up the 365 and I don't know how to get to the document. I like
No.
just
So you need to download PowerPoint to your. So what you do, you see the like grid at the top. It's like in the top left.
uh-huh.
So click on that.
And it brings me to the canvas, like pick from that. Um,
Let me make a video on it, because what it is you go to Office 365. When you're
mhm.
in your email, you go to Office 365. It's usually in the top left. So in your top left. And then once you get to that, there's if you look to the right, there's this thing that says install. It's a drop down menu.
Yeah. No, mine just says OneDrive. Oh, wait, there's a drop down here on this side. Maybe this is it. Okay. And then what am I looking for?
It'll probably say install Office, and it'll install everything, all the programs. Office.
Well, I clicked on Office 365 already and it pulled it up, but there's nothing in it. Like there's no
But you
file.
can use OneDrive as well. You can upload the PowerPoint up into OneDrive and edit it there as well.
Okay.
That way, well, what you're doing is that OneDrive is in the internet. It's like a Dropbox or something, and you're basically editing it in the internet, in the cloud. That's the modern
Okay.
term. Anywho, try your best.
Okay.
It's a new thing. I'm throwing it out on you at this moment, but do your best. Make it easy on yourself. I will adapt. I'm fine with it. Whatever. But when you do it, this is it. When you do it, you're going to click on it, and you're going to upload. You're going to upload your assignment into this. Okay, I just upload it so that I have a record and I can basis to award you the points. Okay, so with our time, I do want to navigate forward. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a skill review for this. You're going to do that today. I'm going to give you one. We're going to do some on Monday with the order of operations and algebraic expressions. Not going to be as many problems because those take a little longer. And then we'll do one on Tuesday for solving equations to get you prepped. As we're heading into the test. And again, that one won't be long either. Just to give you a flavor of what you're going to experience. And by the way, if you're doing, your when you do the homework, when you get here, you'll be ready. It's just a matter of then giving you a final prep. So it's not like the point of the skill review is not to really review. It's just to give you a bit of a refresher to go into it, because hopefully by the time you get through the homework, you're going to be, that's where your skills are. So really,
Are the reviews kind of like extra points in a way?
in a way, but it's your grade for the 88 part of the whole thing. So it's not extra. It's just, but it's not designed to be difficult either. It's not designed to. You should be getting an A, if you will, 100 in that part of it. That's what that is for. I just need something to have a basis to assign a grade for that. But it really is review. So you should use every tool you have. It's not like a test. Use every tool you have. It's just another opportunity to practice. And I don't intend it to be very long either. 30 minutes maybe. That's about it. And here I'll give you the time for that. So, and then two, really do press yourself. You got to achieve this goal here. Get here by Sunday, so that's because if you don't finish it, that's going to just be a drag on you for the test, if you will, because you need that's going to be the test. Oops. Okay. So let's pick up where were we yesterday. Where were we yesterday? Let's see. There it is. Okay. So let me go back. Let me do this. Then let me do. Where are you at? There you are. Okay. We looked at the product rule yesterday, multiplying the same base. You combine them, and you do that by adding the exponent. So we looked at a bunch of different examples. Expressions with numbers in front, expressions with multiple variables, expressions with different variables, and kind of got all the different permutations. So if you feel good with the product rule, now we can do the quotient rule because it is very similar. And instead of multiplying the same base, it's if you're dividing the same base, and if you're dividing the same base, then you just subtract the exponents. Now you subtract the top exponent minus the bottom exponent. Okay, that's the order of subtraction, if you will. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing. See some examples on how we do this. So let's take a look. Just a basic, straight up example. I'm not going to go through the precatory part of it where, just kind of how do we do it. Let me just dive right on in because the point is to see how the rule works. So let's suppose we do something like x to the fifth divided by x to the third. And notice the quotient rule applies, and you'll identify it by seeing what? The same base on different sides of the fraction bar. Okay? Different sides of the fraction bar. So a way to sort of view this is that the quotient rule is a way that we can simplify fractions. And particularly, this pops up when we're dealing with variables. Quotient rules typically, all these rules are typically when we deal with variables, though it still applies to the regular numbers too. So what this one says is, hey, well, look, we've got the same base on the top and bottom of a fraction. So you can combine those into a single base and just subtract the exponents, top exponent minus the bottom exponent. And then that's going to give us a final solution of x squared, okay? Wim bam boom, that's it. Not much to it. Hopefully you see that. There's not much to it. Same sort of idea as the product rule. You're looking for the same base, and this time on opposite sides of the fraction bar. So let's keep playing around with it just to see some different examples. And all we're going to do is we're going to take this rule and just see how it plays out in different contexts, okay? So let's try this one. Suppose we have y to the 7th divided by y, oops, I had a little typo there, y to the, I don't know, -1, okay? So you have the knowledge to do this one. So how would we do this one? Combine it into one expression and do the subtraction. So why don't you tell me, or anybody want to tell me, what is the subtraction I'm going to be doing? What minus what?
What do you do? 7 minus 1?
Okay.
7 minus -1.
Yeah. See, that's why I did this one. Just want to get where's the sense that you're at. And we do 7 top exponent minus bottom exponent, whatever that bottom exponent is. So so in this one, we have to just be mindful that when there's a negative exponent in the bottom, we need to keep track of that. So talk to yourself and tell yourself bottom exponent minus, I'm sorry, top exponent minus bottom exponent. And you got to keep track of both negatives. So with that in mind then, what does the final solution become then? 7 minus a negative 1. This is a good little skill review for the minuses.
Y to the power of 8.
Y to the 8th. Why? Because what do? Those minus signs, the minus minus cancels to give a plus. And so then that becomes 7 plus 1, giving, that's supposed to be an 8. 7 to the 8, y to the 8th power. So the point is to show you that these rules, product rule, quotient rule, still apply even if you have a negative exponent. So there's negative exponent is something special. It's not a separate rule really. It's how do you deal with negatives when the other rules don't resolve the negative. But that's in a moment. So let me pause briefly. Any questions on this, on how to apply the quotient, the quotient rule in this context when you have a negative exponent? So let me give you one to do, to try out on your own. So suppose I have m to the negative 4 over m to the negative 6. Take a moment, try it out yourself. But remember, we're applying the quotient rule. Same exponent, combine it, top exponent minus bottom exponent. What do you get? Okay, so let me do the setup for you. Combine it into one expression, m. Top exponent is negative 4 minus bottom exponent is negative 6. So we're essentially just subtracting the two exponents, the negative 4 minus negative 6, working with negatives. You change the minus minus to a plus, so this becomes negative 4 plus 6, giving us a final value of m to the second, m squared. And this is why I wanted to do the skill review on sign numbers, is because we're heavy into it now. This is where they're going to test you on the sign numbers a lot. A lot of the other stuff too, but we need to, the sign is a big deal as we go through the course. And it's going to pop up over and over again. So these are something. So let me pause. How are we feeling on the quotient rule? Any questions or concerns at the moment? All right, let's keep pushing. More examples. That's all we're doing. Same rule, just different context of the rule, okay? So let's do another one, and let's do something like this. 10x to the 4th over 5x to the 3rd. Okay. How would you think that we do this one? What's your gut telling you? And the point is what I want you to think about is when we did the product rule and we had numbers in front of the variables, how did we handle that? Remember, if we had 10x to the 4th times 5x to the 3rd, remember we just multiplied the 5 and the 10 as normal. So how do we deal with that when we have a fraction?
10 divided by 5.
Just do the numbers as you normally would. Simplify. So essentially what you're doing is you're treating this as two separate fractions. 10 over 5 really times x to the 4th over x to the 3rd. Okay? What does 10 over 5 become?
2.
2. Yeah. Simplify the fraction as you normally would. 2. And then the x to the 4th over x to the 3rd becomes what?
Just x.
Good. So x to the 4 minus 3. And then we do that subtraction. And so we get 2x to the 1st. But we know the other day, and whoever said Jane, I think it was you remembered, yes, when it's just x to the 1st, It's a plain old
Understood.
X. And so that's the answer. That's the I was trying that I did that on purpose to try to refresh you of that rule real quick. It's the whole point. So we're throwing everything in. So you got to be ready for all these little bitty rules. But basically, the point is, it's the same as like the product rule. Numbers in front, deal with them like you normally do. Here we're in a fraction context. Simplify the fraction as you normally would. And then you deal with the variables. That's typically where these rules of exponents get applied. All right. How are we doing on this one? I'm going to change it up just a little bit. You know, it's not going to be difficult. It's not going to be terribly difficult, but it is a little bit different of a look. So suppose I have something like this. Whoops. Let's have something like this. 12 y, sure, y to the 7th over 8 y to the negative 3. So we're going to do our numbers, our fractions, the numbers separate from the variables. So treat this like you're doing 12 over 8. And keep in mind the underlying operation between these is still multiplication, okay? What does 12 over 8 become?
1.5 or 1.5, I should say.
Let's keep it as a as an improper fraction, not mixed fraction. How we
3 over 2.
3 over 2. How do we get that?
The little button on the calculator.
There you go. So remember, what value can you cancel from the 12 and the 8? What number goes into both 12 and 8?
4.
4, right. So we're going to cancel out a 4 and what that means is we're going to divide top and bottom by a 4. So divide that top by a 4 and then divide that bottom by a 4, okay? It doesn't want to do it. Okay, divide that. So when we do that, the 12 over 8 becomes the fraction 3 halves. Now what about the y part? Well, you still just bring it, still just collapse it. And it becomes 7 minus what?
Negative 3. 10.
Right. And so this gives us 3 halves y to the 10th. Now when we do this though, one of the things to recognize is that sometimes Hawks may want you to put it into the numerator. So we can really take that y and shove it up in the numerator.
So I was looking at another thing the other day, one of the skills, and a lot of times some of the breakdowns is they put things on the numerator. So if it's just existing, it's always considered in the numerator
Yes, and why? You already know you already
because
know
it's just a whole
the
number.
answer why. Let me tell you let me make it more explicit. How can I make this y here, this thing right here, how can I make that a fraction?
Y over 1.
Okay. And keep in mind, they're multiplying. So what's your rule for multiplying fractions? Straight across. And that's how that y gets shoved to the top, because it is a numerator already. It's implied. Does that
Yeah.
help to show
I'm
you
sorry.
why the y goes in the numerator? I don't know.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if we did just do 12 divided by 8 and come up with 1.5 y to the 10th, would they count that wrong? I mean,
That's a question for Hawk. See, keep in mind your directions. Write it as a fraction. Write it as a decimal.
okay.
Typically, I'll say a general rule: avoid decimals where you can. But basically, there's a preference for fractions in algebra. There's a preference for fractions because fractions typically are exact. They're perfect. Decimals can go awry because you might round. And so, for example, 2/3. 2/3 is the fraction, but what do we typically do? 0.67. 0.67 is close, but it's not exactly 2/3. So that's why there's always a preference for fractions. So, but I'll default to whatever the directions say in Hawks because it's programmed to accept specific kinds of answers. On a test, if you gave me 1.5 times y to the 10th, well, I know what you're doing. I mean, that's I'm not going to be so much of a stickler. I probably wouldn't give you something like this on a test, but in Hawks they would. So that's sort of a difference between, because in a test I'm testing on skills. Do you know the rule? Whereas Hawks is trying to make, also kind of get you to conform a little bit to some, what we do. All right. So that was just a little the difference here between this problem and the last one is that the numbers part of it didn't reduce down to a nice clean number, an integer. It reduced to a fraction itself. That's the only difference. So let's keep going with this and keep, we'll build on this just a little bit more. Not too much more, but a little bit more. So suppose we have something like this, negative 15 x to the fourth, oops, y to the sixth over negative 5 x squared. How do we do this? Well, you still treat it, the numbers. So what are the numbers part? Negative 15 over negative 5. What does that become?
+3.
Positive 3. Good. Negative divided by negative is positive. How about the x's?
4 minus 2.
Yeah, top minus bottom. 4 minus 2. Right. You're looking at the same base. So only look at the x's. Okay. And what about y? What happens to the y to the sixth?
Nothing.
Nothing. So you just bring it along. Okay. So this becomes what? 3x squared y to the sixth. Now I'm going to contrast that. Okay. Contrast that. Let's do another one. Excuse me. We'll do this. I'll stick with x's. So the numerator, I don't know if it's kind of getting a little bunchy, so it's sometimes hard to read. The numerator is negative 16x to the fifth. The denominator is negative 8x squared y sixth. How do we do this? What happens to the negative 16 and the negative 8?
Turn into 2.
Positive 2. Okay. What happens to the x's?
3.
So x to the 5 minus 2, which is, so I'll write it out just to make sure we see it. What happens to the y, to the sixth?
Stays on the bottom.
Stays on the bottom. That's exactly right. There's no y in the top, so I can't apply the quotient rule because there's no y up there. But the y to the sixth is in the denominator. It can't move out of there. These rules, a quotient rule and all that stuff, is a way to get us to combine things and move things out of their space. But if you can't apply the rule, it's stuck in its space. So the y to the sixth still remains in the bottom. And so we get the final answer then, 2x to the third over y to the sixth. So think of the quotient rule as a way to combine everything into the new. It moves whatever's in the denominator. It moves it to the numerator. It's a way that we could shift it up, and the only way we can do that is if we have the same base in the top and bottom. That's the effect of that rule. Is it pushes everything. If you can apply the rule, it pushes the thing you apply it to the top. But if something like this, the y to the sixth, where it doesn't have a counterpart in the numerator, you can't apply the quotient rule. There's nothing you can do. You got to keep it locked in the denominator. All right, so how do you feel on that? That's probably the challenging one, if you will. That's the one that tends to throw things off. Anybody else? Go. Good, Adam. Yeah, I like it. I like the thumbs up. Anybody have any questions on this? Because now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to skip ahead to the negative exponent rule because this part of it really does help with, okay, this is a good part to bring in the negative exponent rule. So we're going to go ahead and just sort of shift to that part of it. The power of power is a little, is not so terrible. Okay, so the negative exponent rule, I'm actually not going to write this out. Well, maybe I will. Let me do that. Let me do that. The negative exponent rule, what you're probably going to see in Hawks, and I don't particularly care for it, but they're going to show you this, and I guess I got to sort of present it, is it says when you have a base written with a negative exponent, what the negative exponent does is it causes the fraction to reciprocate. Keep in mind, you can write anything as a fraction by placing it over 1. So the effect of the negative exponent is to flip the fraction. That's what reciprocate means. Flip the fraction. Okay. So what that means then, flipping the fraction, the 1 goes to the top, x goes to the bottom, and that action of flipping causes the exponent to turn from positive to negative. That's the actual negative exponent rule. It just says the negative exponent flips the fraction and the exponent turns positive. I hate that formulation because it makes it so much more difficult to see what's going on. Here's what I do, and let me show you by way of an example. I'll show you. I'll do this. So suppose, and I'm going to do two different examples. Suppose I have 3x to the 5th over y to the negative 3. And let me do another one. 4m to the negative 2 over n to the, I don't know, it's n. I'm just going to leave n. I can't think of anything. Okay, so notice what's the difference. We have a negative exponent in the bottom in one and negative exponent in the top in the other. Okay, here's the way I think of it. The negative exponent, all it does is causes whatever has the negative exponent, it causes it to move across the fraction bar. So if you're in the top, you move down to the bottom. And if you're in the bottom, you move to the top. Okay? So what does that look like?
What do you do if you have a negative on the top and the bottom?
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay.
So here in this one, in the first one, 3x to the 5th over y to the 3rd, all we do is we take that, we write 3x to the 5th as we normally do. Nothing happens to that because those are not negative exponents. The y shifts up and becomes positive. By moving it across the fraction bar, you change the sign of the exponent. That's what the negative exponent fundamentally says. It's a better formulation. And over here, this is why I do this one. What's going to the bottom? The 4m squared or just the m squared? In this one, the 4 stays in the numerator because it does not have a negative exponent. It does not, that negative 2 does not affect the m because they're not grouped together in parentheses. It's just the m that shifts across the fraction bar, and the n is going to stay, it's going to go down to the m. It's going to go down to the denominator with the n. So you just move the variable that has the negative exponent, okay? And that's why I gave you that sign practice, that, remember the thing we've been talking about? -3 squared or -3 squared. What's the exponent affecting? Okay, is it affecting just the 3 or the negative and the 3? And the difference being the presence or the absence of parentheses. In this one right here, the 4m to the negative 2, because there are no parentheses around the 4 and the m, that means that that negative 2 exponent only affects the m variable, not the 4. And so that's why the 4 stays at top, and it's just the m that drifts down to the denominator. So let me pause here, and I'm going to do, I think it was Jacqueline who mentioned the question. I'm going to do one with negatives on both sides. But just on the application of the negative exponent rule, if you have a negative exponent, that permits you to drift that item to the other side of the fraction bar. So if it's in the top, move it to the bottom. If it's in the bottom, move it to the top.
So if everything on the top got dropped down to the bottom, would it just be a 1 at the top?
There's got to be something left behind, right? And why is there a 1? Because remember, fundamentally, 1 is always there. 1 times whatever you're talking about. So the 1 will become your placeholder to hold that numerator, right? Just like over here, there's a 1 in the denominator. Oops. It's a placeholder. It's there. It's only written when you actually need it. And in that case, you would. So let's do a couple. Well, I'll show you. So suppose we have
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Adam has one too. He might be asking the same thing as me. Adam, what you got?
Well, I was wondering if there was a negative m negative squared, that would turn positive.
That's the power. That's a different rule.
Okay.
That's the power rule.
All right.
Okay. So 8m to the negative 2 over 3p to the negative 7. Here we have a negative exponent in the top and bottom. So what happens? Well, what about the 8 and the 3? What happens to them? They don't have negative exponents, so they're staying the same. The m has a negative exponent. It drifts to the bottom and becomes a positive exponent by doing that. And the p also has a negative exponent. It drifts to the top, and its exponent becomes positive. So the negative exponent just means you can drift that variable or that component across the fraction bar. And if you have multiple items with negative exponents, you apply the rule individually to each of them. Now let me say, the negative exponent typically is applied last. If you can, apply your product or quotient rule first. If you can, apply your power rule first. It's only when you get down to if you end up with a negative exponent as your answer, then apply the negative exponent to make everything positive. Okay, so we like positive exponents. I mean, it feels good. But the negative exponent rule is a way that if you're left with negative exponents at the end, you can then do everything. So then let's see an example. Now let's put some of this stuff together. Suppose I have 16 x to the negative 9 over excuse me 4x to the negative 2. So what rule are we going to apply first?
Division?
The quotient rule, because you got the same base in the top and bottom. So we simplify the fraction using the quotient rule. So 16 over 4 becomes 4. X becomes x to the negative 9 minus negative 2. This is the quotient rule. We subtract top minus bottom. And so that gives us the result then of 4x to the negative 7. Oh, we don't like negatives at the end. We would normally be done, but we have a negative exponent. So what happens?
4 over x to the 7th?
Remember,
You go back to the top and
there's fundamentally a fraction. So something's got to drift downwards so that 1 is there. So that we fundamentally still have a fraction. And so that the x is going to drift downwards. And so it gives us the result 4x over 7.
Gotcha.
The 4 stays behind. So now what we're seeing is we're seeing the interaction of these rules. You may you may be able to apply the product rule and quotient rule and also some other rules. So you can apply multiple rules simultaneously. My point in this example is to show you if you can apply the quotient rule, do it, because a lot of times it gets rid of it, you may get rid of your negative signs. But if you apply, but my ultimate point is do the negative exponent rule last, because you can get yourself turned around. You know, if you have a lot of negatives, you can get yourself turned around pretty darn quick. So let me see. Let me show you one more. Okay, so let's do 4y to the negative 3 times negative 5y, excuse me, to the negative 7. So what do we do on this one? What rule could we apply?
The product rule?
Right. So we multiply the same base, we add the exponents. So what do we do with the 4 and the negative 5?
Negative 20.
Negative 20. How about the y's?
Bring those down, and then
What's
7.
the numerator?
Be a positive
I'm
10.
sorry, the exponent, yeah.
Positive 10.
Close.
Uh,
What do we do with the exponents? Oh. Let's apply the product rule. I think I know where you're going, Jana. I think you got the answer. You add the exponents. So it's negative 3 plus negative
negative
7.
7. Right.
And so that gives us then negative 20 y to the negative 10. Now we apply the negative exponent rule to drift that y down to the denominator. So it becomes negative 20 over y to the 10th, positive 10.
Mm.
Does your number never move, whether it's negative or positive? Like your number doesn't switch from the top to the bottom since it's negative to make it positive at all?
Nope.
Just your, okay.
Only if you have a negative exponent can you do that.
Okay, so up when we were adding negative 3 plus negative 7, I thought when you add a negative plus a negative, you get a positive. So why do we have to put it as a negative to turn it to a positive?
So what's the rule? The rule is when you add numbers of the same sign, you add the numbers and attach the common sign.
Okay.
What you're
It's
thinking of is when you
multiplication.
multiply numbers of the same sign.
Okay. So,
So only the exponent changes to become from a negative to a positive, but your negative number doesn't switch over at all. So you're just moving your exponents that are negative
Exactly.
specifically. Okay, that makes more sense. I was thinking that you can move the negative number as well, and that it needed to shift at some point too as well.
No,
That makes sense.
the number in front works like is all your rules of numbers. You know, the only way. So no, right. These rules only affect the exponent. Only affect the exponent. Right. Okay, so that's a bit more of it. So we're putting rules together. That's the thing here is you can apply the product rule and the negative exponent rule still, and then it's just at the very end. So then, in the final few moments I have here before I have to take off, let's do the power rule. Okay, and the power rule basically is it's also called power of a power. Oh, let me do this. It's also called power of a power. This is basically when you have an exponent over an exponent, you multiply the two exponents. Okay? That's what that rule says. When you have an exponent over an exponent, you multiply the two exponents. So the classic example, and this is where you're going to see parentheses, by the way, because it's grouping it together. So suppose I have y to the sixth to the third, a power of a power, exponent over an exponent. It just says take your base and multiply the two exponents together. And so we get y to the, in this case, 18th. And it works too if you have negatives. X to the negative 2 to the negative 4. Okay? What do we get? X to the negative 2 times negative 4. Negative times negative is positive. So it becomes x to the positive 8. So when you have power of a power, you multiply the exponents. So let me give you one. Now we can combine rules. We can take the power rule and we can also combine it with the negative exponent rule. So let's see what that looks like real quick. So suppose I have m to the fourth raised to the negative third power. Power of a power, the power rule says take your 4, multiply it to the negative 3 to get m to the negative 12. Now we apply the negative exponent, and that m is going to shift down to the denominator. 12 turns positive, and 1 is left behind in the top. Remember, that's the reciprocal. All right, so one more before we go, because then it sort of encapsulates the power rule, the other thing about the power rule. Suppose I have something like this. 4x to the fourth squared. 4x to the fourth squared. What is being raised to the second power? Basically, what do we do with the 4 in front? What do we do with the 4 in front? So
4 times 4.
yeah, think of it this way. Because there's parentheses here, everything inside is being raised to the second power. So essentially, we're gonna give both parts their own exponent of 2. Oops, their own exponent of 2. So this becomes 4 to the second power and x to the fourth to the second power. 4 to the second power, that's that 4 squared. 4 times 4 gives us the 16. And in this part right here, that's the power of a power. So this becomes x to the 4 times 2. And so we get the final answer then, 16x to the 8th. So when you have an exponent on the outside of parentheses, that's typically how you know you're going to use the power rule, by the way, is this is the giveaway, the parentheses. The parentheses with an exponent on the outside is a typical giveaway for the power rule. You're looking for an exponent over an exponent. When you have this, everything inside the parentheses is getting its own exponent. And so that's why the 4 in front got 1, and the x to the fourth also got an exponent of 2. And so once you get here, then you're applying all your rules. How do you deal with exponents over regular numbers? 4 times 4, 4 squared is 4 times 4. How do you deal with exponents over variables? Oh, that's the power rule. So when you step back from all this, the rules of exponents typically will be applied in the variables context because that's how we simplify those. Exponents over regular numbers, you already know how to do that from when you did the order of operations. Okay, so I'm seeing my time here. I'm behind already, I see. So take the rest of the time. You know, your brain's probably hurting on this. So let it digest it, let it marinate a little bit because it's one of those things that it's just practice. It's just you got to do a lot of practice. Take some time, but do your rules, do that sign thing. Uh, Challenge yourself to be done in the next 30 minutes. Get as far as you can, but uh, take your answers and submit it, and we'll go over it in the next one too. We'll run through them too, so that you're not that you know what the answers are supposed to be. Uh, Hope you found this helpful. I'm going to go ahead and uh, exit this out, or at least exit my part of it out, and I'll stop the recording and I'll load this up later on tonight for you too. So I hope you found this helpful.
I have one more question before you go.
Okay.
The skill review that you posted on the 88 class is not showing up on my end. Is it okay if I just email you the document that I'm going to be putting all my answers in?
Refresh your screen. It should show
I
up.
refreshed it